Welcome into 5 Wide. Today we're looking at my top 10 defenses in the NFL for the upcoming 2023 season. We've seen plenty of great offenses and great quarterbacks win Super Bowls like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, but you look deeper and you see some fantastic defenses. The Chiefs this past year, that front four was fantastic. We've seen a great defense from Aaron Donald and the Rams in their Super Bowl win, and we of course saw a fantastic Bucs defense in their Super Bowl win earlier in 2020. We're going to start at 10, and a team that I think many people are going to be surprised to hear on this list, but I'm very high on their talent, and that is the Cleveland Browns. The problem last year in Cleveland was their run defense. They ranked 24th in the NFL in EPA per rush, but do bring in Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, who are definitely guys in the front four that can shore things up for them. They're also swapping Zadarius Smith in for Jadeveon Clowney, who, in the latter part of his time in Cleveland, things really started to get out of control in terms of how happy he was with the coaching staff and his usage. I definitely like the upgrade there. Smith comes in with 10 sacks last season in Minnesota. They also bring in a new coordinator in Jim Schwartz, which I definitely think will help shore things up on the running side. But against the pass, they've got plenty of talent here that everybody knows about when it comes to Myles Garrett. He had 16 sacks last season. Their two corners in Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward bring that draft pedigree. Also had Martin Emerson, who allowed just a 53.9% completion percentage when targeted. He had 9 pass breakups. He also had 4 touchdowns. Also adding Juan Thornhill from Kansas City at the safety spot. I think this pass defense is very talented. This is just about with a new coordinator being able to put it all together, and I expect a big year from Cleveland in 2023. At the 9 spot, I have the Buffalo Bills. In this edition of the NFL, in this era of the NFL, you need to be able to generate pressure and turn those pressures into sacks. That is my big complaint with the Buffalo Bills. While still having them in my top 10, they were 18th in sack rate last season and 12th in pressure rate. We've got an aging core as well on defense. How much are we going to get from a 34-year-old Von Miller here this season? The addition of Leonard Floyd, good one on paper, 30 years old, getting up there in age, but did have 9 sacks and now back-to-back seasons. Could be a great addition for them. The biggest thing for me as well comes with health. This team was not healthy last season. Can they get a healthy Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, all on the field at the exact same time? That was a major problem last season, and one that could pay huge dividends this upcoming season if they do find ways to stay healthy and be on the field together. But despite the struggles to stay healthy, the Bills allowed just 19.1 points per game last season. They were the 3rd best run defense according to Football Outsiders, and they were also 6th in yards per coverage snap against the pass. So very, very good overall last season. But again, my concern is this is a core that is getting older. Can they stay healthy, and can they be productive rushing the passer? That is a major difference maker when it comes to being an elite defense in this edition of the NFL. At the 8th spot is the Washington Commanders. Look, they don't have the star power of a Myles Garrett, of a Nick Bosa, of a Micah Parsons, but I might take their front four over anyone else in the NFL. The combination of De'Aaron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young led this to be a defense that was 2nd in the NFL in pressure rate at 39.4%. Only the Dallas Cowboys were better. This is an elite level of getting after the passer. But with that talent, the front four also led to them being a great team against the run. They were 3rd in opponent EPA per rush attempt. Having this talent up front takes so much pressure off of your secondary and coverage. But there are questions in that secondary, which has me keeping them here at this 8th spot beyond Kendall Fuller. There's question marks. This team was 20th in opponent yards per completion in 2022. At number 7, I have the Denver Broncos. Look, nobody was better than this team defensively in the first half of last season. But my concern comes from trading Bradley Chubb during the season, and as well letting Draymond Jones walk in the offseason to Seattle. Their pass rush is missing those difference makers. The addition of Frank Clark, having Randy Gregory, these are guys that are definitely talented players, but actually have missed out on production in the last couple seasons in that sack department. The secondary, though, we know is amongst the best in football. Pat Surtain is probably my number 2 quarterback in the entire NFL. He had an 86.7 coverage grade last season, which was 2nd amongst all quarterbacks. As well, with Justin Simmons, his 6 interceptions were the most in the NFL. With Sean Payton coming in as the new head coach, he does bring with him now and hired Vance Joseph as his DC, who has had some fantastic seasons, but most recently with the Arizona Cardinals, things did not end well. There's plenty of talent for him to work with in this secondary. This is still a very elite unit in my mind. The difference here is how good will the pass rush be. At the 6th spot, I have the New England Patriots. Now, here's a challenge for you. Naming a player on this defense that isn't one they just drafted, that isn't named Matt Judon. This is a very, very high-level defense, thanks to Bill Belichick, that doesn't have a ton of star power, but continues to play at a very, very high level. This is a defense that was top 5 both against the run and the pass in pretty much every metric you can find, as well getting the most out of all of their talent. That is what Bill Belichick does. Jonathan Jones had a massive bounce-back season. He had 6 touchdowns, the corner did, in 2022. And now have the potential of getting even better. The addition of Christian Gonzalez as a lengthy corner to run opposite of him. We could see great play at the cornerback spot from the Patriots this season. You pair that cornerback play as well with the pass rush that was excellent. I mentioned Matt Judon. He had 15.5 sacks last season. We also had this team that was 3rd in sack rate and 5th in pressure rate. Don't forget about Josh Uche, who also had 11.5 sacks on the season. As long as Bill Belichick is running this thing, this is always going to be a top 10 defense in the league. At number 5, I have the Miami Dolphins, a team that definitely, when you look at how they performed last season and where they have them ranked now, the numbers might not make a lot of sense, but this is still a very, very good front seven that was very good against the run last year. They were 4th in rush DVOA, 4th in stuff rate, and opponent yards per carry. I'm also very high on the duo of Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips on the edge, getting Chubb now for a full season. Phillips has been quietly very good for this Dolphins team in his first 2 years in the league. I would expect a level up here, having a guy like Bradley Chubb on the opposite side to take that attention away from him too. Everyone's going to talk about the addition of Jalen Ramsey as well. It's well deserved. You have to give the guy a ton of credit for his play last season that was still at a very high level, despite playing for a team that was very, very bad last year. Credit to him in terms of staying motivated, still being productive. He had 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions last year. But to me, the thing that elevates this defense the most and has me raising them in terms of their rank of looking at this defense and the roster and the talent, but giving them probably a 5 to 7 spot jump in my rankings, is having Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator. He is easily the most influential mind on defense in football. His too-high scheme is going to very much elevate this secondary that was the weakest part of their defense last season. They were 25th in EPA per pass, but his defense and his too-high scheme, there are coaches littered around the NFL that have learned from him. I love getting him for this team, and with the talent they have with Xavier Howard and with Jalen Ramsey, I'm very high on what the Dolphins can do defensively, bringing him in, and with that production they have up front. In the number 4 spot, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Their pass rush and their front four was just absolutely out of this world last season. They had 4 guys finish with double-digit sacks. Hassan Reddick was 2nd in the NFL with 16, but the other guys in double digits, we had Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, and Josh Sweat. They lose Hargrave to the 49ers, but I believe this is a group that can still get better despite his departure. They were 31st in EPA per opponent rush attempt. They were terrible against the run. They have the duo of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. They're 2 monsters out of Georgia. It is time for these 2 to step in and be productive and be able to stop the run at a much higher level than Hargrave did. Look for these 2 guys to be very impactful when it comes to improving in that department. Now, being able to keep both James Bradbury and Darius Slay has had its consequences. TJ Edwards, Marcus Epps, and Kaiser White are gone, and now they're asking Terrell Edmonds and Reed Blankenship to step into those safety roles. I don't expect this secondary to play at quite the same level, but when you have all that talent up front, it's going to make life a lot easier for this secondary, so still love what the Eagles have on defense this coming season. And my 3rd ranked defense for the 2023 season is the San Francisco 49ers. Last season's unquestioned number 1 defense. They allowed just 17.2 points per game. They were the number 1 defense in DVOA as well. We of course had Nick Bosa winning Defensive Player of the Year with 18.5 sacks in 16 games, but this team was not just good against the pass, they were also very good against the run. They were 1st in opponent rushing yards per carry at just 3.4. My concern though is the departures and why I don't have them in my top 2. Aziz Alshire, Samson Ebukam. We also have Emmanuel Mosley and Jimmy Ward in the secondary. The addition of Javon Hargrave though does look great on paper. We talked about those sacks earlier. Can he be productive though when it comes to keeping this team elite, stopping the run? There's still a lot to love about this defense. Signing Charvarius Ward last season is looking like one of the best contracts any team has given out from that year. He's been fantastic for this team in the secondary, so I still expect the secondary to be playing at a high level, and really this team overall is still going to play at a high level despite their departures. In the number 2 spot, I have the New York Jets. They've got the best, unquestioned in my mind, this is the best cornerback in football. There's no debate in Sauce Gardner. He was targeted just over 4 times a game. Opposing receivers had just a 45.9% catch rate. He only allowed 34 receptions in 2022. His play has also elevated this entire defense and especially the secondary. DJ Reed was fantastic last year. He had just a 75.7 passer rating when targeted. I also love the addition of Chuck Clark to kind of cement things at the safety spot. A fantastic duo between him and Jordan Whitehead. The only thing missing in my mind, keeping this from being my number 1 defense overall, is the edge. We need to find an elite edge rusher to pair with Quinnen Williams on the interior. And they've got 2 players with a great opportunity to be able to do so. Carl Lawson has been great on the edge for them, but there are 2 guys they took in the 1st round the last 2 years, in Jermaine Johnson last year and now Will McDonald, that if they can step up as 1st round picks and play at a high level, the level that they were expecting when they drafted them, then this team is in a fantastic spot. And by the end of the year, I could be considering them my number 1 defense overall. And my number 1 ranked defense heading into the 2023 season is the Dallas Cowboys, who in 2022 led the NFL with a near 41% pressure rate. That's a number that absolutely blows my mind. To be able to get after the quarterback at this type of level makes playing defense for this team at all the other positions that aren't Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence very, very easy. Parsons was great in 2022, could probably play, and I would expect even at a higher level this season. He had 13.5 sacks. And in the secondary, Trevon Diggs didn't match his 11 interceptions from 2021. I don't think that's very likely to happen for anybody playing at a high level to be able to have 11 interceptions in a season. But what I do like is his overall play I thought was better. He gave up far less explosive plays this past season. As you look at the numbers, in 2021, his yards per reception allowed was 18.7, but this past season, he brought it all the way down more than 6 yards to 12.1 yards per reception allowed in 2022. And what's even better and has me liking this secondary even more, we get this high-level play from Trevon Diggs, and I think this secondary is even going to be much, much better this coming season with the addition of Stephon Gilmore, who despite being 32 years old last season, was the 6th best cornerback in coverage grade from PFF. But maybe the biggest reason for me having them in my number 1 spot as my top defense heading into the season is being able to retain Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator. The Cowboys have ranked 2nd in total defensive DVOA in back-to-back seasons, which are both the seasons that Quinn has been in Dallas. When you look at the level of play you were getting from this Cowboys defense before Quinn's arrival, it's easy to say that his scheme and his ability to coach on this side of the ball has really elevated this team. You combine that with their pass rush production and those 2 guys at the corner spots. I love what the Cowboys have heading into this season. Now that you've got my top 10 defenses heading into the season, would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. Let me know where I went wrong. I'm sure you're eager to do that. And as well, let me know who you guys have in your top 10. We'll be dropping our top 10 offenses next week. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel as well. And as always, we will see you on the next one.